Welcome back to the Gaming Coffee Club, your chilled out weekly news roundup over a nice brew. So, what are we talking about this week? We are talking about a ton of hardware news. There's a new PlayStation Portal potentially on the way this year. We've got PlayStation 6 handheld news, separate from the Portal that is, and PlayStation 6 controller news. Tons of hardware news this week, it's crazy, and some nice gaming news. We've got some new PlayStation Plus games and some other new games headed our way this month. So sit back, relax, grab yourself your coffee of choice or whatever drink you want in hopefully an official Gaming Coffee Club mug. If not, pick one up in the merch shelf down below on YouTube or head over to purepsx.com if you're listening or watching somewhere else to pick up one for yourself from our beautiful range of official mugs. Now let's get into the first news story, which is actually a bit of a hybrid between gaming news in terms of hardware and software. You'll see what I mean in a second. We're over at VGC here for the findings of an interesting survey. And what has happened is that developers have been surveyed, and the number of developers interested in working on Xbox games is half that of PS5 or Switch. Yes, so half the amount want to work on Xbox versus PS5 or Switch. That's according to the latest annual State of the Game Industry Survey, which is managed by the Game Developers Conference. The survey, which questions more than 2,300 games industry professionals around the world, asked its respondents to list which platforms interest them most as a developer at the moment, I think that's meant to say. Respondents were allowed to choose as many options as possible, meaning they didn't have to choose one platform over the other. 80% of respondents said they were interested in developing a game on PC, which is the most popular choice. However, whereas 40% said they were interested in making PS5 games, and around the same, 39% said that for Switch 2, only 20% chose Xbox Series X or S as an option. This makes it closer in terms of developer popularity to Android, which is on 16%, and iOS, which is also on 16%, and the original Switch, which is on 13%. Wow. The result suggests a change in attitude. The result suggests a change in attitude towards Microsoft's console, given that 40% of respondents said their last project was released on Xbox Series X and S versus 47% on PS5. And the results are on screen just now if you're watching the video here. One thing that I would think we should take into account with this is PC is, I think, going to be the highest no matter what. And people will say, yeah, it's the biggest market. Okay, yes, it is. However, getting like a license and to develop a game for, launching it on Steam, I think is far easier and far less costly than it will be for, PS5 or Switch or even Xbox, for example. But this is really pretty bad for Xbox. It's just like another indicator that points in the direction of downward for the Xbox brand and the Xbox consoles. We've had Xbox constantly shoot themselves in the foot. They had good hardware with their Series X and Series S. They probably should have just released one version of the hardware. By that I mean not having a low-powered and a high-powered one. That seems to have not went down well with devs. You could argue, are some developers being lazy and not optimizing the games? Because you look at some of the games on the Series S, for example, like the Forza Horizon games, Forza Horizon 5, it still looks amazing on Series S. I have a Series S and Series X, but there is a bit of a difference between them, and a lot of games have, cutback features on the Series S, or some devs now are just skipping the platform completely because they do not want to launch a version for Series S and Series X, which Microsoft stipulates. If they didn't do that, maybe we'd be in a different position with the Series X console. Also, finally having a slate of decent games coming out. Xbox had really a drought of games for years. Now they've got a regular release schedule, it seems, of games, and some of them are doing pretty well. They look pretty good. And they make, they go full third party. They don't basically have them as console exclusives. That's the only thing that's going to make more people want to buy the Series X and S if they could only play these really good games on Xbox. So, and then last but not least, I guess the one thing that always jumps to mind is Game Pass, which was their golden goose. They then doubled the price of it across the globe and made it ridiculously expensive, and so many people just cancelled it. It's not worth it. Or if you're like me, I've got mine stacked for I think another year or so before it runs out. Once it runs out, I'm not renewing it. I just don't think it's worth it at that price. So Xbox is not looking good because developers who make the games are now also thinking it's not worth it. I'll give it a pass, because you might say, oh, it's only 20%, and Switch 2 and PS5 are only $39.40, but that's double the amount. So that is a big difference. The article, does it go on to say anything else? It does say Xbox has continued to push towards becoming a multi-platform business, repositioning its consoles as just one of the many ways to play its first-party games. Most of its big games for 2026 are already confirmed for PS5, with Fable arriving on Sony's console day and date with the Xbox version, and Forza Horizon 6 arriving on PS5 later in the year after its Xbox release. They have definitely devalued the console. Their advertising is actively pushing people to just sign up to Game Pass Ultimate and cloud gaming, play Xbox via your Fire Stick, via your mobile, via PC handhelds like the ROG Xbox Ally X. So this just doesn't surprise me. So much mixed messaging, muddying the waters. Phil Spencer coming out saying, it's just 4 small games we're sending over, 4 older games going over to PlayStation, and then the floodgates just open. They just sent everything over to PlayStation because PlayStation gamers are buying a lot of their games, and Xbox gamers, I would say, were more conditioned to just wait for things to go on Game Pass. What's the point of buying a game if it is going to show up in Game Pass? So they've just made bad decision after bad decision, in my opinion. It's such a shame. I really wish someone else would buy Xbox, because Microsoft are just not at the races with this. They're just too interested in AI and Copilot and all that other rubbish. Xbox, even the Xbox leadership, I genuinely wonder if they are actually making any decisions now, or if they're more just, the face of this. It really seems like it's Microsoft leadership that's actually making all the decisions. Does this surprise you, though, that developers are now starting to not be as interested in making games for Xbox consoles? It's a sad state of affairs. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Now, this week was full of news about PlayStation handheld gaming, in particular the PlayStation Portal, which has been a surprise success, I guess, for Sony and probably in everyone's eyes, because this thing was not warmly received when it launched. However, it's got a really loyal following. A lot of people really enjoy the Portal, myself included, and it seems to be going from strength to strength. And we had multiple reports from multiple different news outlets covering off leaks from Kepler L2, who has a proven track record when it comes to hardware leaks, in particular for AMD and Sony hardware. And he has stated that Sony are preparing to launch an OLED version of the PlayStation Portal in 2026, this year. How wild is that? So after the recent software update that unlocked cloud streaming on the device, new leaks surrounding this new Portal make a lot more sense. With the PlayStation Portal OLED, essentially it sounds like it's going to be a mid-cycle upgrade. Kind of like, I always think of the original Switch when it launched. It was out for a good few years, and then we had the Switch OLED version, which came along with the better screen, and there wasn't many other changes. It was just the better display. The display was also slightly bigger, which makes me wonder, could the PlayStation Portal have a slightly bigger display? That would be cool if they managed to do that without impacting the form factor. Like, if you look at the gameplay on screen right now of, me playing Cyberpunk on my Midnight Black PlayStation Portal, there is bezels around the screen which could, expand the screen a fair bit. However, the thumbstick housings go right to the edge of where the screen is. So if they could be moved or repositioned slightly somehow, you would then have that extra screen real estate. Or do you just change the design, even more than that? Or the easy option, I guess, is the screen just stays the exact same dimensions. However, it is then OLED. There is then potentials. Could it be a high refresh rate panel as well? Maybe going up to 120 hertz for high refresh rate gaming. Maybe that's another thing that will be coming down the line to PlayStation Plus premium subscribers in the future. I'm more focused on just the OLED for the the nicer, deeper blacks, more richer colors, and it will be more power efficient. So I'm excited to see this when it arrives, anyways. And the fact that this is going to happen in 2026. What are we saying, people? We will be talking about another PlayStation event, which is rumoured to be happening very soon. We'll talk about that later on in the show. So there is potentials that this could be announced really, really soon. I'm thinking surely this will be later on in the year. Probably around about November time, because then it would hit the kind of the year anniversary when the PlayStation was the Portal was launched. Sorry, it was launched, I think, on November, wasn't it? It was around about that time of the year. So then it would be out for 3 years? Is that right? 3 years? I think it is 3 years. So that would be cool to see. But it also makes me think of PlayStation's other hardware lineup, like the DualSense with the DualSense Edge. I keep thinking, could this be a Portal and a Portal Edge? I think that would sell well, and it could work well. Give us a Portal with an OLED screen, changeable thumbstick modules, back buttons. I think that would be a really, really nice upgrade, and maybe they charge instead of it being $199 like it is just now, it is $299. Would people think that is reasonable for those upgrades? I would give that a go. I think that would be good. The one upgrade that hasn't been mentioned anywhere in any of these leaks, which would be really nice to see, and I don't know if it's likely or not, or whether they would hold this off for a future, proper upgrade like a successor. But if they upgrade the Wi-Fi chip somehow, that would be great. Give us a Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E, something like that would be really good, just to, enhance the connection capabilities of this device. Because remember, this is a streaming device, so why not do something to make the streaming connection as, bulletproof as possible? It is really exciting though. A new PlayStation Portal life cycle refresh coming this year. Sound off in the comments if you expected that. I have spoken about that a lot on the channel, but I really wasn't sure whether it would happen. It seems though that the success of the Portal is causing Sony to look at the Portal differently, do a lot more with it. They're clearly, going to back up with the new hardware revisions as well. And then an actual dedicated handheld too, which we also got mentioned of in these leaks, which we'll talk about right now. So while this PlayStation Portal OLED upgrade is an upgrade for all of us on the streaming bandwagon with PlayStation Plus Premium, which is still not rolled out to all regions, which does kind of suck. There's a lot of people who own the Portal who can't do cloud streaming. Surely Sony would be working on getting that sorted as well. However, this next option might solve that problem, albeit not as soon as the PlayStation Portal OLED would. And it is basically that Sony's long-rumoured native gaming handheld, which we've heard about for a long time, and has been referred to as Project Canis. That is the code name for this piece of hardware, supposedly. We've got some leaked specifications. This is also from Kepler L2 in this same post on NeoGAF. And he basically indicates that the device will utilize AMD's next generation RDNA 5 or UDNA architecture. So that's, if you're wondering what all that is, this techno mumbo jumbo, this is the architecture that the graphics chip is basically built on. And the way to think about it is the PlayStation 5 is RDNA 2. So going from RDNA 2 to RDNA 5, even though it's maybe not as a powerful piece of hardware because it is a handheld and it won't have the same amount of raw power, as in like actual power current going into it, because it's a small handheld, it's not plugged into your wall. It will still be able to punch way above its weight because it's 3 generations on from the graphics processing unit that's in your PlayStation 5. So this is a nice upgrade, and this is my really simple explanation of it. So hopefully it makes a little bit more sense to you all when we talk about this. And basically, the specifications state that it will utilize AMD's next generation RDNA 5, as we have said. Some leaks early on had hinted that it would have a higher compute unit count of up to 20. However, it seems that they've settled on 16 compute units for this configuration, and this decision is probably driven by that golden power to performance ratio here, as at 15 watts TDP, which is typical for, portable game handhelds like this, a 20 CU GPU would likely just tank the battery life and, experience diminishing returns. So there's no point in doing that due to memory bandwidth and then thermal constraints as well. You need to remember, you need to keep this handheld cool while it's doing its thing, especially if it's a slim handheld. I assume it'll have a fan in it. It's not going to be passively cooled, surely. Whereas, the Portal doesn't have all these, high-powered internal components. It is just streaming. It is almost like a kind of budget Android tablet, which is then just streaming from the cloud, because all the hard work is being done in the cloud, or it's been done on your PlayStation 5 if it's via remote play. Whereas this Project Canis will actually be playing the games on the hardware in your hands. It won't be streaming it from the cloud, so it needs a lot more heft and a lot more power to do that. So to support this hardware, Sony has reportedly updated its PlayStation 5 development kits to include a mandatory low power mode. So this should mean that your existing PlayStation 5 library can scale down to run natively on the handheld. This handheld is expected to launch close to the PlayStation 6, and the Portal OLED will be revealed this year if these leaks are true. We obviously still need to wait for the official word from Sony. One thing though, this has got me thinking. All of these leaks and rumours are talking about the PlayStation 5's low power mode to play PlayStation 5 games. So you may have noticed this has been rolled out to your PlayStation. All PlayStations now have a low power mode. You can set it to that. I don't think anyone does or anyone has. If you have, let me know. I've never went and toggled it on or off. It's basically a test bed for then these games being enabled to run on this lower powered hardware, which got me thinking. Everyone refers to this Project Canis as the PlayStation 6 handheld. What if this is actually not a PlayStation 6 handheld at all? This thing might not actually be attached to a PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 6, other than actually playing some of the games, which makes me think, could this be a kind of interim standalone type device? What I mean by that is, hear me out, we know that the price of hardware is kind of going through the roof right now because of this AI bubble and crazy, just ridiculous tariffs being thrown about all over the place, all over the world. The cost of hardware is going through the roof. You look at PC components right now, RAM is going through the roof, solid state hard drives is going through the roof, GPUs, so your graphics cards, is going through the roof. That is going to have an impact on whatever hardware Sony is making, and there has been a lot of rumours that the PlayStation 6 will be getting delayed, so it might not launch till 2030 or after, and that the PlayStation 5 life cycle has been expanded, so it will last out to 2030. So that's a 10-year life cycle. Imagine then we're at 2026, 2027. They'll launch this Project Canis handheld, but it's actually a PlayStation 5 handheld, which will play your games locally instead of it being PS6 handheld. However, due to the configuration and how this thing's built, it could then potentially run PlayStation 6 games, via the PlayStation 6's low power mode when it launches. So I actually wonder if this thing is more going to launch as a PlayStation 5 handheld. And is that something you'd be interested in? I would love that. I'm all for a dedicated PlayStation handheld. The Portal just makes me want a dedicated handheld even more. Not having to rely on an internet connection is the way gaming should be played, then you can be playing it in a train, plane, car, the middle of a field with no internet connection, whatever. You're out camping, you can play your games. Just that's the way it should be, and I'm really excited about that. Whereas the Portal, it is more of about convenience and playing your PlayStation games, maybe about the house in different places. And I know you can travel about with it, but it's not built for that, I'd say. That is what you want a dedicated handheld for. So if this Project Canis turns out to be a dedicated PlayStation 5 handheld, would you shell out the cash for one? And how much would you be willing to pay? That is the big question, because hardware is getting pricey. I think for something like this to have any kind of chance, I don't think they can go much over 500, 600. If it starts costing more than the actual PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 5 Pro, it becomes a hard sell, unless it does have the rumoured dock, kind of like the Switch, where you can just dock it in and it would be able to play on your television also. Then you get a much better value proposition because it's a handheld and it's your home console, which I think would be awesome, because Sony does make great hardware. Just look back at the PlayStation Vita. That thing was light years ahead of its time. So was the PSP when it was launched originally. I'm really excited to see what they can cook up with this Project Canis handheld. Now, in a surprising twist, Sony's potential new controller for the PlayStation 6 could be very controversial if this new patent is anything to go by, and I'm not sure how I feel about this, if this is real or not, or becomes real because we know the patent is real. But they've basically secured a patent for an adaptive touch controller with no physical buttons for the PlayStation 6. What? So, they've been issued this patent in the United States for its controller, which is mostly covered by a touchscreen, which would allow users to position and alter the buttons to their wants and needs, as we can see by, there's some images here of what the patent looks like. And the description accompanying these patents also points out one of the drawbacks of current controllers, that, your inputs are basically fixed in place, and they can't be altered or updated, but you can remap buttons, I guess. You can't actually move their physical placement, which I guess you could see as a negative, but I would say is also a positive due to like muscle memory. You start to know exactly where it is, where you can press. You don't even need to think about it. Whereas a touchscreen with buttons, which you maybe change for each game, I would think you'd find yourself looking down at the controller to see, am I pressing the right thing? But what they have said is, by way of example, a fixed layout may be too small or too large for a user. And then it says, similarly, a fixed layout may not be comfortable to a user. So Sony believes a desire exists for different controller configurations to support different hand sizes. They also say another drawback of conventional controllers may be the fixed nature of input controls. For example, a controller only has enough space to include a directional pad, a joystick, and each element is usually located in a different location. This is kind of random, isn't it? It also mentioned in the patent that the controller would have a pressure sensor and a heat sensor to detect condition of the input surface. What? Does it mean you're getting hot and sweaty during an intense game or a scary game? It knows. So just imagine like a DualSense with just a huge touch screen or touchpad on it. Surely, if this thing becomes real, surely this is an option, like an optional extra for someone to buy. Imagine if Sony shipped their console with this. I don't think I would like this. Like, I know it's not the same, but mobile gaming, if I'm ever playing on a mobile phone, I need like a controller attachment onto my phone. I hate playing games on a mobile phone using touchscreen controls. It is just brutal. Whereas they have said here, the input surface may eliminate the need for physical buttons and allow for a single surface to detect one or more of touch, tap, swipe, slide, press, pinch, etc. Jeez. On Tech for Gamers here, they have mentioned this controller could be a huge innovation for gamers. However, without fixed physical buttons, it might require a whole lot of practice to feel comfortable in our hands. I personally don't like this idea. Maybe this is just one of these patents, these companies are always researching, new hardware and new methods to play games. So they've just put this in the patent, vault for the future. But I really hope this is not anything to indicate what the PlayStation 6 controller might look like, or any other PlayStation in the near future, because I don't like it. I mean, could you even go further? Could this be like for, a handheld where it is like just a screen, and it then adapts in terms of displaying the game images and the controls move about as well? You could go crazy with this. Would you like a touch screen controller, so a full controller with no physical buttons, or would you rather stick with physical buttons like your DualSense controller? I am physical buttons all the way, people. Sony's State of Play events are always good fun to see what games they're working on, what's heading our way soon. And I love them because I always live stream them here on the channel. So make sure you head over and subscribe and come hang out, because we always get to react and chat about everything in real time, what we love and what we loathe. So it's really good fun. And basically, they've hosted one every February for the past 5 years. So we were all thinking, fingers crossed, there's going to be one this month. And then reliable leaker Nate the Hate, someone tweeted him asking if there will be one, and he responded saying there will be, yes. So State of Plays, usually they're filled with, there's third party stuff and some first party announcements as well. So I'm excited about this one. What will this focus on? Who knows? I'm thinking maybe Soros, maybe some more Wolverine, maybe Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, possibly more Marathon as well, actually, because that's heading our way soon as well. So we've got that to look forward to this month from PlayStation. What would you like to see? Is there any games you'd like to see announced? I know everyone will say we would love to just see more, like maybe GTA 6. That's not out of the realms of possibility either. Sony and Rockstar have worked closely together for years. So who knows what we might see. That's why you've got to tune in. You've got to be in it to win it, people. Now, the GTA 6 delay saga continues. We know the game has already been delayed a few times. And this next one is a bizarre delay. And Screen Rant are reporting on this. And I kind of can't believe this. And I hope it's not true. And I really want all of your reactions to this. But according to a new report, physical copies of GTA 6 could be delayed beyond November to stop leaks. What? It's not uncommon for big games to appear in the wild early and leaks to spill out online if a retailer accidentally breaks the street date. So this comes from, I can't even say this, Grastari. So a trusted insider involved in physical video game releases in Europe. The same source previously leaked Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024's PlayStation port and the physical release of Oblivion Remastered. So this is wild. So according to this, to stop any leaks about the game, the game's story or any features before the actual launch date, so it's kind of embargo date, they would not be selling physical copies, so they could control the distribution of the game, because if it's digital, it would be locked. There'd be a timer until the go live date, and then it would become available for everyone to play. Oh, that would mean if you wanted a physical copy of GTA 6, but you also wanted to play GTA 6 when it launched, like who doesn't? You want to play it when it launches and get involved in all the excitement and all the buzz around it. This is basically going to be the biggest entertainment launch ever. Bigger than, any video game, any movie, any music, probably all rolled up into one. But if you want to do that and you buy physical games mostly, you need to buy a digital copy first off, and then potentially buy a physical copy later on, or just be stuck with the digital version, that sucks. Like, what? Oh, or this has me worried that the physical version will basically be like something out of, Microsoft's playbook, where the disc is basically just a token to download the game, and then Rockstar would have it that you basically couldn't play the game without a day one patch, which will happen on launch day. Oh, this has got me worried, because this also then sets the precedent for just more digital, digital first. Physical gaming is so important. We need, as consumers, options. So digital is an option. Yep. Physical is an option. I prefer physical because you have something which you own. You can then sell it. If something happened to your PlayStation account, like say you lost your PlayStation account somehow, if you've still got your physical games, you can just slam that in your PlayStation and you basically have a game still to play. Whereas everything with your digital account would just disappear. And I think you get better pricing options. Like you might be able to buy GTA 6 cheaper from like Amazon or Game or Curry's or Best Buy or wherever you are in the world, whatever your big superstore is, versus you'll be paying full price from the PlayStation Store. It's always far more expensive buying new games digitally than it is buying new games physically. There's always way better options. So this frustrates the hell out of me. I hope this is not true. Obviously, nothing has been confirmed. We're still waiting to see what happens when we approach launch date, which is November the 19th, 2026. But this would be weird. So the report is claiming that physical sales could be delayed by up to 3 to 4 weeks and may even end up releasing in early 2027. What? So imagine, like, you're a physical game collector, or you just prefer physical games like I do, and the game comes out on the 19th of November and you can't play it until January 2027. That absolutely sucks. Take-Two do have their investors call. I think it's this week. I think it might be tomorrow. It might be the 3rd of February. Maybe we'll hear something about that then, or just more about GT in general. And we've got stuff here as well. Fans are baffled by this leak. Right, what are they saying? So somebody has said here, I wouldn't be shocked if the physical release is a bare bones license on a disc. Oh, yeah, that doesn't work until release day. Yep. Another adds, I will be supremely annoyed and angry if that's true. Yep. Someone else has said, I want to say that this is pure cap. A third argued, never have they ever been this concerned about the game leaking so much so close to release. I can't see them doing that for this reason. This game is not that top secret that they will jeopardize profits. They can benefit from a physical release. If this is true, this is one of the most obscene reasons I have ever heard. It is because, let's get real, even if stuff about it leaks, this game is going to be the best-selling game of the year and probably go on to be one of the best-selling games of all time. So I don't think it would actually impact the sales of this game one bit. If anything, you never know, it might even help them even more because people will be like, whoa, this looks wild, I want to get involved. What do you think? Do you think this will happen? Is this a good direction that games are going? Do you care about, if something leaks before it? I guess it's up to you as well, just to not look at leaks so you don't spoil stuff before the game. But I don't think this is good. I'm not happy about this. I hope the physical game is available that day on launch day because that's what I want to buy. Let me know what you think. Our PlayStation Plus monthly games for February have been revealed also, and we have got Undisputed, which we discussed, I think, on last week's episode. It was leaked that this one was heading our way. So, boxing simulator, basically. I think I'll be giving this one a pass. It just doesn't really interest me. I think I said this before, like boxing type sims, and like I'm not a big fan of boxing. I prefer UFC, but I just don't think it translates very well to a fun game. Like kind of simulator fighting game. Give me Tekken or King of Fighters over these kind of games any day. Then we've got Subnautica Below Zero, which gets a really, really good write-up. And I have never played this game, so I can't really comment on it. It does look like an interesting kind of adventure game, and it's available on PS5 and PS4. When these all drop, which date is that? You're probably thinking that is the Tuesday, February the 3rd. So tomorrow, these will all be available until Monday, March the 2nd. And then there's another game called Ultros, which I have never heard of either. And it's a Metroidvania game, and it looks like it's got a really nice art style and soundtrack. So well worth checking out if you are into those types of games. And then the one for me, which just jumped out right away, was Ace Combat 7, the PlayStation Plus curse strikes again. I just bought this recently, and now it's on PlayStation Plus, and it's a PS4 game. It was interesting. Sony had announced they were going to move away from PS4 games for PlayStation Plus Essential, and basically every single game that's announced here, apart from Undisputed, has a PS4 version. So there we go. Good news, they're still on the way. This is the one to play for me this month. Absolute blast. And Ace Combat 8 is on the way, which we'll also be discussing in this episode. Let me know, what do you think about this lineup this month? I think this is all right. 4 games, pretty solid. I think this is a good month. I'm happy with this. Gets a thumbs up from me. And I'll be playing Ace Combat 7 first. Let me know what you'll be playing first. More Ace Combat news. Push Square have got a rumour that Ace Combat 8 has an online beta, which might be heading our way very soon. And something else, which sounds like a nice treat if you are going to pick up Ace Combat 8 Wings of Thief. I'm looking forward to this game. I think it looks an absolute blast. Arcade, fighter jet action. You can't beat it. It's just top notch. My kind of flying game. I think I've said this before. When I play Flight Sim, I struggle to get the plane off the ground, literally get it off the tarmac. Whereas this, no problemo. And basically via SteamDB, there's several mentions of a closed network test, which can be found on an update of the data for Ace Combat 8's Steam page. And they also mention Ace Combat Online, which might be the name of the title's online multiplayer hub. So we've got this test potentially coming our way soon, which would be very cool. So we can maybe have a shot of it before it goes live. But the cooler news is there's mention of Ace Combat Zero. And Ace Combat Zero, the Balkan War, to give it its full name, is a PS2 classic and fan favourite in the series. So the theory is that this could be a pre-order bonus for Ace Combat 8. As this isn't the first time this has happened, because Bandai Namco made a remastered Ace Combat 5 Squadron Leader a pre-order bonus for Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown. And I think that was the only way to get your hands on it. They didn't launch it, for you to buy. It was only with the pre-order. So that's kind of cool that the pre-order bonus is actually rare and a full game. So that's exciting, cool to see. So it's looking like the next game in the series will receive some sort of online beta test prior to launch, and you might get Ace Combat Zero as a bonus if you pre-order. Very, very cool. Who is up for checking out Ace Combat 8 in an online beta test? And would you pre-order it if it included Ace Combat Zero? Let me know in the comments. Pilots, Tokyo Extreme Racer is a game I am really excited about. It has proper PS2 arcade game vibes. And we've got this new trailer which just re-emphasizes that. This just screams a good time to me. And we don't have too long to wait. This is arriving on PS5 on the 25th of February. So this kind of old school arcade vibe. I just love these kind of games. And look at this. Toyota just looks so damn cool. Is anyone else excited for more old school arcade games like this? And what is cool is this is from Genki, who is the developer behind this whole Tokyo Extreme Racer franchise. Many of you may have played this back in the day on your, on older PlayStations. So this being brought into the modern era, looking this freaking good, and I think going to be this much fun, I am very excited about it. And I love to try and bring these kind of games which maybe might not get as much press as some of the big AAA games which you all know about and all talk about. I'm excited for this. Tokyo Extreme Racer. Will you be jumping into the driver's seat? It's already available on PC in early access, but this is it coming to PlayStation 5 finally. I can't wait. Now, some sad news in the UK that UK retailer Game is closing its remaining standalone stores after entering administration, and it will now operate entirely within Sports Direct and House of Fraser. Wow, like what a fall, man. Like Game used to be a place I used to love going in to wander about, check stuff out. I must admit they were always pretty expensive for brand new games. Like Game in the UK and like HMV were always really expensive. You'd be far better buying out of like one of the supermarkets like Asda or Tesco or something like that. You'd get a way better deal on your games. I did love though checking out like the used game section and trading games in. I even think it was Game I traded in my silver PlayStation 2 console to get my hands on my Xbox 360 back in the day. Money was tight. It was like one console in, one console out. I'm kind of gutted. I have since then bought another silver PlayStation 2 to kind of regain my collection that I had when I was a kid growing up and stuff like that. But this is just sad to see, physical stores are just fading away now. It says here they've closed nearly 300 stores. Wow. Everything, I guess, a lot of it is online now. Even if you go into like what I was talking about, like big stores, the game section, like in Asda, for example, it used to be a full aisle. It's now like one individual shelf kind of thing. It is so bad. That is probably exacerbated by digital gaming, where people are just buying games digitally. They're not buying games physically as much now, which I hate. People, come on, keep buying physical games. We need to keep that option available to us, because as soon as it's gone, you better believe all these online stores like the PlayStation Store and the Xbox Store are going to be keeping the prices sky high. And whatever they decide the price is going to be, you have no other option. You either pay it or you don't get the game. Whereas at least when there's physical retailers and physical games out there, they all compete with each other, and even they compete with like the online stores like your Amazons and stuff like that, and they all try and price match each other and beat each other when a new game comes out, so we can then hopefully get a much better deal. I just thought this was sad though. I think the last time I was in a game and it was inside Sports Direct, there wasn't actually even many games. It was full of like just like Funko Pops and Pokemon cards and stuff like that. It's just a shame to see gaming going in this direction. What was the last time you were in a game store or any store looking at games? Let me know. Is that something you do? I still enjoy just, browsing and looking at the boxes and checking them out and stuff like that. I think it's because I loved doing that as a kid. Maybe kids nowadays just don't care about that. They just click a button and the game downloads right to the machine. That is me. Game is now no more pretty much, and who knows how long it will last within Sports Direct and House of Fraser. That being said, that's another week of gaming news done here on the Gaming Coffee Club podcast. Remember to check out the merch shelf down below. Check out purepsx.com, grab yourself a beautiful mug, and we'll be back next week with more chilled out gaming news for you all.